So yes. Where is it?
Okay.
It's going. It's going kind of like, we'll see what happens. Though we are not muted. So a minute and a half. All right. I think this is good to go. I never know. But what's up? If you are watching us live, hello to you. If you're watching this on the recording anywhere around the interweb, aloha and welcome to you as well. My name is Ka'ala Souza, and I'm working with the Workforce Development Council here in Hawaii to bring these super cool live streams to you guys. And I've said this before, I will say it again. I've been talking to a lot of people, not been talking a lot, which is normal, but I've been talking to a lot of really interesting people with fascinating ideas. And those ideas are things that I want to share with you. So we brought this live stream thing here going on to try and share this, to take advantage. It's 2021. So we want to try and use some technology here. And it is apropos for us that we're using this technology because today we're talking about digital literacy today with one of the first people I spoke to. It feels like almost like years ago, but it's like months and months and months ago. I'm talking to Theresa Sladek from Minnesota. She is living in Minnesota, working with Northstar Digital Literacy, and it's going to be a fantastic interview discussion. I've talked to her a lot over the last couple of months, and I want to share some of her perspectives with you on digital literacy, computer skills, the need for it, where Hawaii is at. I'm super interested in that. But before I do want to share a couple things with you. We have next week, we have another live stream coming up with this guy right here, Jason Chang. He is the president of Queens Hospital here. We're going to be talking about the future of work, digital upskilling, even upskilling in general in healthcare. So President Queens Hospital, this is next week, Wednesday. I should probably know, or put this up on the thing someplace. So this is what's happening next week. But we're talking about digital literacy today. And before we do, I want to give you some context. And the kind of context I'm talking about is a little bit of history as we look at the future coming up, right? So this project that I've been working on has, for about a year now, has made me kind of a part-time futurist and a part-time historian. And way back in the day when I was in school, like high school I'm talking about, I seem to recall that there was something about literacy here in Hawaii. And this project made me go back and look at it. And I found that way back in the day, we're talking about 1800s, Hawaii had one of the highest literacy rates of any nation in the world at the time. It was amazing. And it struck me as something that is a part of our roots, a part of our history, and I think it's a part of our kuleana. And a part of that, too, goes back to this guy right here. This is Kamehameha III, Kauikeaoli, and he was young when he took over for his brother. But one of the first things that he had shared, he mandated or cast a vision for, was this idea of literacy. Because in 1820, just before he became king, in 1820, the first missionaries came, and the missionaries brought with them the first like super high piece of technology here. It was the printing press. And within like 18, 20, 10, 12 years or so, Hawaii got to that super high level. And part of it was because of this, the encouragement and the motivation from the ali'i, like Kawikea Oli, who says over here on the bottom, "He aupuni pala pala ko'u." Mine, telling all the people, the ali'i, the chiefs, and the maka'ainana, mine is going to be a kingdom of literacy. And within that short 10 years, 12 years or so, we got to like over 90% of the population in the nation of Hawaii was literate. Amazing. One of the highest literacy rates in the world at the time. Again, I think it was 91 to 95%, depending upon who you read and how they calculate that. But that history, I think, is something that we need to connect to, and we need to relate it to where we are now in 2021. And that literacy is not just a reading literacy, but now it's a digital literacy. And so with that, I want to introduce you to our guest today. This is Theresa Sladek, Northstar Digital Literacy from Minnesota. So I wish I had my sound applause thing on. I probably do. Let me just make this thing happen. Watch this. How's that?
Hey.
You're the first person I rolled this out for, let me try it.
Awesome.
I should do it again every single time. But Theresa, thank you so much for joining us. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking out my window and it is beautiful outside. It's blue skies. It is sunny. How is it in Minnesota?
Actually, today is a beautiful spring day. It's in the 70s. It's blue skies. All the flowers are blooming. So unlike when we spoke in January,
that's right.
It's actually nice out.
It was so funny. In fact, that last time we had that big meeting, and I think we're on a call with you, and you were telling us that there was some kind of earthquake or tsunami or something, some kind of warning. And I was like, well, here we are in Hawaii. It was still a nice day, and it's great to have you up here. You have been to Hawaii before. You have.
I have been to Hawaii, and I actually learned about the literacy rate while I was in Hawaii. And our organization, Literacy Minnesota, works on adult literacy too. So it was a shining moment in my professional life to hear about what Hawaii had done in its past.
Oh, I like it. You guys came out of Minnesota literacy. Is that correct? I mean, when I say you guys, I'm talking about Northstar. And so Minnesota literacy it's been around for a while.
Yeah, so we used to be called Minnesota Literacy Council, and then we changed our name about a year ago to Literacy Minnesota. So Literacy Minnesota is a nonprofit. We've been around for about 50 years. We work with especially adults, but also kids and their families on all forms of literacy. So reading, writing, math, citizenship, and then, of course, digital literacy. And Northstar Digital Literacy is that program piece of Literacy Minnesota that focuses on the digital.
Gotcha. When was the last time you were in Hawaii?
Oh, it was 2017.
Okay, just a little while ago.
It was right before the volcano blew, a month before the volcano blew.
Mm-hmm. And did you go there? I can't remember. I thought you did go to the Big Island.
I was on the Big Island. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you went scuba diving, so you're like local already. You're like Kama'aina.
That's right.
We're gonna official give you local status. Like people are gonna say who are watching this live, Kala, I'm not sure if you can confer official local status, but I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna give that to you right now. So we're looking at digital literacy here. I can, and I'm going to. This is my live stream, darn it. One of the things that I wanted to share as we go through this, we're talking about Hawaii's past, and we're obviously living, well, not obviously, but I think we're living in our future right now. There is no way we're going back to what life was like 12 months ago, 14 months ago. And so digital literacy is a big deal with us. Tell me just a little bit before we get into what digital literacy is about how you got into this, because that's an interesting story in and of itself.
Yeah, so back about 10 years ago, when the country was in another recession, we had our local library had a lot of displaced workers coming into the library wanting to learn computer skills because they wanted to look better on their resume. And the library had so many people coming in, they wanted to help them, but they needed a way to kind of separate them into those people who needed some more foundational digital literacy skills and some people who needed maybe higher level digital literacy skills. And the library also wanted a way, they wanted to know what were the kind of core competencies to say that someone someone was proficient in, internet searching or email or Word. And so they came to us and they said, hey, you work with adults in literacy. Is this something you can do? Can you create assessments that would help us to see where people are at and where they have gaps? And we thought that was a great fit. So that's how we got into digital literacy.
Yeah. And have you been working with them for a long time, or something that you've always done, always wanted to do?
The library we partner with for years as part of our kind of, we're located in the city of St. Paul. And so as part of our consortium, we have the library on our consortium board. And so there's a good partnership there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And when you started digging into those gaps or identifying what those the needs are or were back then, was anything surprising to you as you guys started to go deeper and deeper into that?
I think what was surprising to us actually was that there was nothing out there already that addressed these kind of foundational digital skills. So there's higher level skill programs for sure, and assessment programs. And even today, there's nothing that really looks at, what are the things you need to know to be considered just proficient in basic computer skills or basic internet searching.
Yeah. So proficient, right? So this is huge. I found you guys because we have our state librarian here in Hawaii, Stacy Aldridge. She's been doing digital literacy. Like every librarian has been doing digital literacy since there was a computer in the libraries. But she had a friend who was a librarian in Minnesota. And I think that was the first time we had ever contacted you guys back in 2020, because we're looking for exactly what you're talking about, something that addresses the basic level skills. We didn't start out wanting to do, in the Workforce Development Council in WDC, thinking that we're going to do digital upskilling or basic digital literacy. That wasn't the thing. Our whole point was to try and answer the question of what is it going to take for us to have a resilient workforce. And then it was kind of like, we got to have these resources out for us in our state that allows people to keep learning what they need to know for that unknowable future. But everything's online. So they're like, wow, how many people are there who need these skills? And that's, I think, what led us to you. But do you have any sense of how many people are in need of some of this basic digital literacy skills?
Yeah, there have been several national studies, and the most recent one found that it's about 16% of all U.S. adults have no or very little digital literacy skills. However, when you look at workforce age or people in the workforce, especially if you look at people who are traditionally marginalized anyway, the number goes up much higher. So for the number of, let's say, Black workers in the workforce, the percentage of those workers who aren't digitally literate is higher than the percentage they represent, for example.
Yeah. And so, with the people you're saying who are marginalized already, we have a very rural, I think our whole state could be considered rural and very remote. But, we do have some rural outlying communities that we're just struggling to make sure they have an internet connection, much less some digital literacy skills. I actually installed a computer the other day in Waimanalo for our kupuna, in our computer houses. So this uncle, auntie, I said, hey, this is your computer, I got it for you. And I said, have you ever had a computer? Is this your first computer? Or you used computers before? Never used it before. Have you had one before? Never had a computer. And I said, what do you want to do with it? And they're like, well, we want to, go talk to our mo'opuna, our grandchildren on the big island. And the uncle goes, they're probably all big already. So we haven't seen them for so long. And so that was one of their things. But I've never met anybody, this is the first time, that had never had a computer in their life. First time. And I gave them a Windows 7 based computer and they're tripping. I pressed the button, connect to the internet. And one guy's like, wow, this is so fast. And I was kind of like not looking because I don't want to say anything. This is so slow. We're going to try and hook you up. So we started talking about marginalized communities. We've been talking to some people, even in Native American communities. Do you guys work with anybody, Native American communities in America?
Yeah, we work with a lot of different communities. So Northstar is found in 48 of the 50 states. And what we do is we partner with libraries, workforce systems, four-year colleges, community colleges, adult literacy programs in many different types of communities. So it could be rural, it could be very urban, like we're working with Chicago and Philadelphia. We're working with statewide systems like Louisiana that does have a large rural population. And then all those, many of those state systems also have Native American populations as well. And they, at least like here in Minnesota, they often also don't have great internet connectivity. So that's another challenge. We did see, Literacy Minnesota did some work with the CARES Act funding where we gave out we partnered with our local workforce center or the county workforce center and the libraries. And we gave out 500 what we call tech packs, which were laptops, Wi-Fi, hotspots, a year's worth of Wi-Fi, and then the digital skills. And even in a larger city like St. Paul, there were many people who had never had a device and didn't even know how to turn one on.
That is, again, it's just amazing to me. But we had a fantastic company. It was so sad. Love's Bakery had closed down, and there's a whole bunch of them who had no email address. They had no need to have an email. They've been there for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And it's like, this is the different world that you're coming into. And without an email address, or we had to set them up with an email address. And so hopefully they're going to be able to go and take the next step, and this is where Northstar comes in. I feel like I just built up that whole transition where there's this kind of the easy to access basic computer skills. So, we start talking about progressions. Help me understand a little bit. When you take somebody from a level 0, what are you thinking about that they need to know, that they need to learn, and how they need to do those things, how they need to learn them?
Yeah, so it's like teaching someone to read when you've been reading for a long time. It's hard to remember what it's like to not know how to turn on a computer or operate a mouse, but that's where you really need to start. And you need to start when you're teaching someone, you have to start with language that they can understand. So not like we're all used to jargon, like, click on the link. Yeah. Well, someone who doesn't know how to search, that doesn't mean anything to them. So it's really starting with the basic vocabulary, the really basic components of the keyboard and the mouse and how to move things and how to move around in the system, and then building on that.
You mentioned a couple of states that are not involved in this. You said there's 48 states. Are you comfortable telling me who that is? Who those states are?
Yes, because I would like to reach those states.
Please tell me who those two states are.
Montana and Alaska.
Okay. So, now, what are they doing? Do you have any ideas what they're doing? Okay.
I don't. I have recently reached out to some people in the state to say, hey, and so it could be that some states don't have a lot of funding, and I think that may be the case here.
Okay. Yeah. But
yeah,
let me go to that funding thing. You guys, now we're trying to get a contract with you because we're trying to do this whole big thing with the libraries, and that's going good, by the way. So we have that's working. That whole state procurement process takes longer than I expected. So we're trying to make that happen. But even without state funding, you offer all your curriculum for free. Isn't that true?
Yeah, so a lot of it. So we have what we call a free version and a subscription version. And the free version, you can go to our website, which is www.digitalliteracyassessment.org. And you can take all of the assessments, and there it is. And
I'm just going to put you on it too. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you click on that green button where it says take an assessment, it will take you down we have 14, and you will see your score. So I would like suggest, even if you feel you're pretty digitally literate, I was just talking to someone today in Miami, where she's like, I took some and I'm really embarrassed to say I didn't pass them. But the thing is, a lot of us as adults, we taught ourselves a lot of our digital literacy skills. And so we have gaps because there was something we didn't need to know how to do, or we maybe found a different way of not as efficient way. So even though this helps people with very low or no digital literacy skills, it helps all of us. And I have even had developers take the assessments and not get 100%. So it's something that we can all gain from and see how we're doing. And then also on that website, on the free website, there are some of our self-directed online learning.
Let me pull this back up.
Yeah. So if you go back up to the top.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's okay.
Yeah. And then if you go to the build your skills and see more.
Yes.
So then you see in that number 2, there are 4 of the self-directed online learning modules. And this will they take about 90 minutes each, and they'll walk you through.
Here is a. So you're probably sitting in front of a computer right now.
Yeah.
But what exactly is it?
I don't even know what's going on.
What can
I'm
you
trying to
do
get your
with
picture
it?
on here, and I can't get you on here.
What is a computer?
Oh, I think yeah.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so well, you can see that you have the option of audio and reading. And the audio, she reads very slowly and clearly. So again, if learning by hearing is your style, that you can do that. You can speed up the speaking, slow it down, just have turn it off. And the way it's organized is that there'll be some instructional piece, but then some practice, because as you all know, it's really hard to learn digital literacy through lecture. You actually have to do it. So these modules allow for you to practice your skills.
I like it. And I have sent the link out to a whole bunch of people just recently. Our broadband Hui, Bert Lum, is on here. He's like the godfather of broadband here in Hawaii, OG. And he's like, oh, I'm scared to take it. I gave it to some high level people, I don't want to say. And they're all passing, but they're missing some. And I know which questions they're missing because I struggled with it. The first basic computer test takes I think 10 minutes, if you're good. It's 38 questions. You go through it. That's just me guessing. But it took me almost 14. And I timed it. I videotaped myself because I knew there was 2 questions that I had doubts on. And one of them was how to turn the computer on. Because there's the thing that could be an all-in-one, is that a monitor, and I feel like I had to go back, took a chance, and it was good to go, but I love it. I think we're getting kind of competitive. We have somebody over here too who took all of the assessments, a couple people, and they just get kind of competitive. So we want to gamify this. This is actually what we want to do. I want to get as many companies, organizations in our state to take this, at least the basic one, the basic computer skills, and have, everybody at Zippy's, Zippy's, because I know Zippy's. The dream is that everybody at Zippy's, all these hotels, take it, and so we can have the King Street Zippy's, challenge Kailua Zippy's, and just get everybody up, get the whole state. And I'm going to go back to Kauikeaole again, 91% ours is going to be a kingdom of literacy. We talk about 91% in the state. Do you have any state level data too, about where the other states are in the country, or do you guys track that, or you guys know that kind of stuff? Where they are in terms of their computer skills?
I don't have that. Other than the national, I don't have state by state, although it would be very interesting to find out.
Yes. I've been asking other states if they have it.
Well, with these statewide systems coming online a lot through the libraries, that they will have that data, in let's say 6 months.
Yeah.
So that would be really interesting. I'm sure Hawaii is going to be the highest.
You're good. We're going to try really hard, and that's what I wanted to ask you, because I wanted to say who's in the lead right now, who's in the front. Do you have any ideas? Because I know you work with a lot. You're the national person, right? The national, I don't know, coordinator, whatever for it. So I know So keeping it on the real, 100%. What states are in the lead right now in trying to get their population, their state to the super high level? Tell me about that.
So I would say that the state that is in the lead for statewide partnering and really working together as a state and trying to reach as many adults as possible, not necessarily children, is Louisiana. And their governor is really behind this effort, and they have a group of people that represents their focus is actually digital equity. So they have groups that are giving out devices. They're working on their broadband, and then what's often forgotten is the digital literacy piece. Because if you give out a computer but someone doesn't know how to turn it on, it's just going to gather dust, right? So so through their through their academic library system, and every state's set up differently, they are providing digital literacy to all adults.
So you're talking a lot of people. Do you have any ideas about how many people have gone through that yet? You know,
I don't, but they are. Louisiana does have some very rural areas, and then some more urban areas, and they have implemented it across the entire state through all their libraries in the state. And yeah, I that's an interesting question, and I don't see their numbers.
I don't think anybody has this kind of stuff, or nobody's sharing. And because I'm trying to figure out where we are. Like, I want Hawaii. We're looking back at 91%. 91%. Where's my number? My 91% on here. We want to get there, but where are we now, right? And where is every other state? And I think this is a unique or a different place, even for me personally, because we don't sometimes like to put ourselves forward. Hawaii, right? Like local culture. We don't want to be like competing. And then I'm going to say this again. I've been saying this a lot. Somebody told me, Ka'ala, you have to compete. And we in Hawaii have to compete. You can't just let it to natural evolutionary processes, like it's just not going to, like, for me to be naturally, like, just go where evolution is going to take me. I'm going to stay on the couch. I'm not going to go work out. I'm not going to go learn new things. And so I need some kind of prompt. And I'm hoping that a 91% thing can galvanize our state for that. I wasn't sure what you're going to say when you said Louisiana. Good for them. Good for Louisiana. I would like for the next time you're on a live stream that somebody asks you that question, you go, Louisiana is up there, but Hawaii is right on their tail. So you're talking about. No, you don't have to. Don't say it if it's not there yet. But we're working on it, right?
Oh, I actually, to be honest, when I'm talking to these other states, I always bring up Hawaii and what I think is really great about what you're all doing is the partnership you have between the libraries and the workforce centers, because I believe that is going to lead you to the success you want. The more kind of entities that you have involved, the better your results are going to be.
Yeah.
So I do hold you up as a shining example of how, let's say, libraries can work with their workforce systems to better serve people.
We'll see. We're trying to roll this out. Go ahead.
I also think that, as you're having people take the assessments and seeing where they're at, and then you have to see where they can get to, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the nice things about what you are offering through the subscription is that people can see their scores, but then they can just target the places where they need to fill the gaps with that self-directed online learning, for example, or with classes that you're providing. So they don't have to learn everything that they know already. They can just focus on those particular areas that they need to work on. And so that's going to get you quicker to your, I'm going to say 100% for your
Yes,
goal.
You're right. Thank you for raising the bar for us. I like 91 because it sounds so odd and I can remember it. It's, but really, who would not want the other 9%? We want to go to 100%. I think we have to raise the bar here. Hawaii, we're so vulnerable. We're at the mercy of, whatever goes on around the world, because of our the way our economy is situated and stuff, and we're trying to figure this out, right? So, there's all these resources that were offered for free in 2020, Microsoft, Coursera, everybody, all those kind of guys. But you need some kind of basic literacy. So I can't say to 150,000 people in Hawaii. Hey, here's a link. Click on it and go check this out. Because they're going to be like, what? What's a link? I can't say here's a URL, which is even worse, you know? So, and I tried. About a month ago, I told some people to actually go to digitalliteracy.org, your website, because I wanted to show them the test and wanted them to take it. And it took about 10 minutes to get them on the site. And they were legit, not comfortable with computers, not proficient. It is no fault. Right. They just didn't need to. Like my chainsaw skills are out of 0. I think there's a lot of people in Minnesota who would beat me at chainsaws. And you guys should be leading the nation, cut wood, fireplaces. But we had people, probably 5 people in that class, and they all took the digital literacy assessment from Northstar, and it took 25 minutes. It took a long time, 30 minutes overall to get there and take the test. That's a 10-minute test. And I think it just demonstrates the difference in productivity, efficiency with people who have these kind of skills. Now, it did say, by the way, a whole bunch, you did not pass. And it was a little harsh. Can we soften that up for our Hawaii people here? Like, hey, good try, bruh. Mahalo for taking his test. They were like, what? They're all mad. We said it didn't pass.
So interestingly enough, this topic does come up. And I actually do work in our computer lab as well with people learning digital literacy skills. And oftentimes that is the reaction. And I find that it actually prompts people to learn it so they can pass. Like it's kind of a
I like it.
incentive. I like it. And then when you do, but the nice thing is when you do put the time and effort into learning the skills, you see improvement. And so it's a quicker win sometimes than like a long-term educational program or something, because you're seeing like, hey, I have the agency to do this. I can learn no matter how long it's been since I've been in school, or how maybe I didn't do well in school, or maybe I just don't feel comfortable around digital literacy. I have the ability to learn, and that helps give people a lot of confidence.
Yeah, we're seeing that when people can go, like I had a couple people right now who are on the digitalliteracy.assessment.org, your website, which is in the notes, by the way, on YouTube. Which I think everybody should take who's watching this. Take this thing. But we had one person from one of our early, like 2 months ago, library class. They were pre-piloting our pilot, and she says, "Hey, I want to learn. I want to learn." Coming out of this class, she's probably in her late 20s, early 30s, married. They have one computer in their house, no mouse. It's a laptop. And I know this because she's tried taking some of the assessments, and she says she has a hard time without a mouse doing some of the dragging, make this $10, whatever it is. And she did. And she told me, it said I passed. Now, just this morning, she sent me a thing saying she tried to take a Word or Excel assessment and she didn't pass. But she's sending me like regular updates. And I said, but you took it, you know where you are, and you know where you want to be. So this is a great place to be. We want to learn. We want to be learners. And I think more than any other skill, this is what I would want for us here in Hawaii, to be a learner. This is going back to Kawakeo only. We want to learn stuff. So, we're trying to get to where Louisiana is, I guess. I think I heard Michigan or Minnesota had given out 5,000 computers. It must have been, I don't know. I was on some kind of call. It was our call. We were on some kind of call. And
Minnesota, Ramsey County,
Was it Minnesota?
Not the state of Minnesota, more the counties. Two counties, the two major.
5,000. So just before that meeting that we had, this is that national, that was east to west, right? We had everybody all over the country. But I was just talking to DBED and our Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, and hey, let's try and give out 1,000 computers. And after that meeting, I went back and said, hey, listen, Minnesota just gave out 5,000. So, compete much? And now I'm going to go back and say that was one county. But we are trying. Two counties. 5,000 computers. But going back to your point of this, I think there's been a lot of people who've been focusing on, hey, we need to get broadband, we need to get computers, but it's useless if you don't know how to drive. You have a car,
Right.
but you don't know how to
Right.
drive. I'm just not sure how people can't have all of those things in mind when they try and provide some solutions for people. What are some of the best practices when you think about it? Because I know you guys got your counties giving out computers. When you and all the things that you're working with around the country, all the different places, municipalities, whatever. What are some of the best practices you see where there's some intersection, public, private sector, nonprofits, whatever? What are some of the things that are standing out top of your mind for you that maybe we can, copy a little bit?
Yeah, so I like to talk about digital equity as a three-legged stool. So you have your devices, your internet connectivity, and your skills. And without any one of the legs, the stool is useless, right? So the programs that can provide all three are going to be the most beneficial to their population. And what I would say best practices, the more a program can be from the promoted at even the state level, the better, because one of the, as you are really good at, one of the things you have to do is promote this, the availability of the skills and the whole package, as well as the need, but then bringing in these different partners that can reach different people. So the libraries are everywhere. Usually people can know where the library is. Workforce Center focuses on the skill building, especially in the jobs. Adult education can focus on populations that need other literacy skills too, and so often don't have digital literacy as well. And then bringing in the businesses too, though, because we are, like right now, if you're reading the paper, so many companies are having a hard time finding employees right now. There's not enough people who are either able to work or who fit the jobs. And companies, I think it's 80% of middle skilled jobs need some form of digital literacy. So it's in companies' best interest to upskill their employees or to provide this training and to support this training for now and for future.
Yes.
And you talked about a little bit about earlier on, you talked about kind of the digital landscape always changing. And there's a term called digital resiliency, which means that we can't just teach people these concrete skills. This is how you do this step 1, step 2, but the idea that people have the capability to learn digital skills, and like you said, are lifelong learners in this topic, and they can transfer, if I know how to do Word, for example, then I can probably figure out Google Docs because it's very similar. And so giving people that confidence in themselves that they are able to figure out something without the hand-holding is a huge skill, especially for the workforce.
Yeah, I like that a lot. The digital resilience, the idea of trying to train every person is daunting. We have this little small kupuna housing, right? It's the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. It's a beautiful place. The mountains on this side, the ocean right here. You can see both. And I don't know how many people are there actually. I don't know, 40, maybe 70 little residences. But each of them, we don't have a computer lab. So each of them, we've been taking a computer to their little room. And each of them has questions. So each, my speakers don't work, or I don't know how to get to here. And it's super fulfilling to help one-on-one. But what we want to do, and I'm trying to, is to get them online. Here's Northstar, here's the thing. And what do you need to know? Here's my big question. And this is my experiment, right? Like, we're thinking we can get a couple, 2-3 hours from people who are at a level, maybe not a level 0, but maybe like a 0.5, out of 5 or 4 or 5. When I'm thinking that we can give them a little in-person training, 3 hours, and from there, we want them to leave confident. I think that's the word that you just leave, that they're not going to break anything. They can learn things. They can get online. They have an email address. They have all the things that they need to create a learner account on Northstar. Is that enough? Can we do that? Give them a couple hours and get them onto Northstar and say, have fun.
Yeah, in fact, as part of the program that we did with our local county, where in that project we gave out 500 of the laptops, we had people called digital navigators, and what they did was they made sure people knew how to turn on the computer, knew how to plug it in, knew how to connect the internet to it, and could basically get around to the different icons and knew what icons were. They could open up the browser. They could type in the North. Well, we actually had it bookmarked, but the Northstar Digital Literacy Assessment webpage and the learning page, and that they could. And we also taught them how to use Zoom, because at the time it was pretty important. But then they could start taking the assessments themselves, and they could go from there and do the learning. And what I found really interesting is that a lot of the people, when they wanted this, what we call the tech pack, we asked them their goals and why they wanted it. And many people at the time said, oh, I need another device. I've got 7 people at home and only 1 device, or I need better Wi-Fi. But after going through this little training and the assessments, we did 3 of the assessments, which were the basic computer, internet basic, and email. After doing that, 56% of the participants said they wanted further digital literacy training. And so they went on to either do it on their own or signed up with a free program to get it. So I think that many of us taking the assessments will find out, hey, there are things I can learn, and I want to improve.
Yeah. I like that. I read some kind of study from, I don't know if it was Portugal. It was like some bizarre, I don't know how I found this report. And they're talking about people who are not using the internet, not using computers, not interested in digital literacy. And they tried to kind of correlate it or track it with what people knew about what was available, what are the options online. And the less that you knew about what you could do, the less you used it. Like you just don't, like I'm asking, there's 15 people, they're all over 65. And it was just something we went down this like last weekend with my son, a couple of my sons, and a friend of ours from Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And when I said, hey, have anybody ever bought anything on the internet? And they're like, no. I'm all, yeah, don't start. It's gonna change your whole life. Anybody on like Facebook? One person, anybody, ever looked at? No. And so one guy, I just asked, I said, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to research. I want to go back. He's like, he's super into Hawaiian sovereignty. He's in, Waimanalo. That's God's country out there. And he wants to go back and research it. I'm all, oh, bro, you are in for a treat. You can find, you're going to find everything, that you need, maybe some stuff you don't, which also goes into the idea of like digital data literacy, or maybe information literacy, I think is the better term, right? Like, do you guys have a module on that, like information literacy or internet security?
We have both. So definitely we have various modules around what websites are secure and which ones you would never want to put your credit card in, for example. We have modules that would be in our internet basics. And in email, we have around phishing scams, to how to avoid phishing scams, which is really important. But then we do have an entire module based on information literacy, just like what you're saying, which is it's not really how to search, but it's how to search well. So how to type in the search terms so that you get the results that you want, and how to determine if a website is going to be valid or not. And, as you're talking about like all these other unrelated to work skills that digital literacy brings, or abilities, much of government most of government forms are online now. Like you said, internet shopping, internet banking, healthcare. I was just talking to someone earlier today, and the future is telehealth, and is all kinds of digital things. So if you don't have those skills, you're going to be left farther behind. But even talking to older people during the pandemic, the thrill they got when, like you said, when they could finally just Zoom with their family was, people, it was remote, but they would have been hugging us, right. If they offered to bring cookies.
That's right. That's classic. bringing families
Yeah.
together. I mean, because people always ask me, it's one of the most frequently asked questions about what we're trying to roll out with this program. And it has to do with internet safety and security. And I'm saying, yes, we want to definitely address it. We have a 3-hour in-person class. And then we're hoping to push people into their own wave and stand up and surf, And that's a little bit of what it is. We're going to give you some basic safety stuff. We talk about those same 3 modules, as a matter of fact. So I'm glad you're doing those same things, like the introduction to computers, monitor, keyboard, here's a mouse, left click, right click, and navigating the internet and the email. We think if we can do those 3 things, you can get onto Northstar. If you get onto Northstar, the world all of a sudden opens up to you.
And I would say that's a best practice that that many other organizations do as well. Those three assessments or those 3 modules are kind of the cornerstone. So if you want to do anything over on the computer, you really need, a pretty good grasp of those things. So many organizations will have them be prerequisites to even doing other distance learning, but definitely to use the Northstar modules. If you have those 3 things,
oh my goodness, yeah. And so I think what we're finding is when we look into the workforce, we don't have data, but we're just about to. And so when you start going into other people's live streams and they're asking about other states, I just want to represent and flex a little bit. We're doing a whole statewide survey trying to get us a snapshot of what our rate of digital literacy is. And I think what our rate of digital literacy is, and maybe where kind of the current state of our digital readiness is, which tends to go more into things like attitudes, motivation for learning and using digital devices. So we're in maybe a month and a half, 2 months, going to start having some state level data. It says, here's where we are. And I'm interested in next time somebody answers that question, they're going to be Louisiana. But we talk about this too here. Digital, we have this broadband Hui, and there's 300 people on this mailing list. Usually a week, we have maybe 60 people on the Zoom call, talk about what's going on with the infrastructure, the access that you talk about, computers, the broadband, and literacy. So those are all the things that come up. And in our thing, our digital equity declaration, which goes back to Kawikio Oli, we're saying we want digital for all, which is access, literacy, and livelihood. That all of those things. Nice. So it's super nice. Just next time you're on this live stream with somebody.
I will put Hawaii as number 1.
No, I don't know. I'm feeling a little insecure right now.
If you deserve it.
That's right. If we do. And, we do have some live people on all the time. I'm looking at these different monitors because I've gotten, and I've heard this before, that the more digital you were before the pandemic, the more digital you became during and after, like now. We just became, in my household, way more digital. I bought another computer, that I only do this stuff on. And have this other computer. My wife has she's a nurse practitioner, all online, all her patients. One child about to graduate from the university, other 2 in online businesses. So we're all in. Without it, we're in trouble. So if you are on watching, I know there's a couple of people. I'm looking at your guys' website, your Facebook group right now. And shout out to all of you on the Northstar Digital Literacy Facebook. Michelle Wood is on there. She had put down a digital inclusion link. Thank you very much. Onisha, I think Freeman, had made a comment as well. So there's people here. I'm really interested in not just in Hawaii, obviously being elevated, but our world. I've heard somebody say that this idea of broadband access and I think digital literacy is almost like a civil right. Is it a right? What do you call those kind of things? Like the UN was talking about it. But if you can't read, you're just in trouble. And if you can't use a computer, you're just in trouble. You said this earlier, that digital gap, that digital divide is going to get bigger. Yeah. So what else can we do here? You guys are holding down the fort, giving all of us around the world a chance to help all of the kunus rise up. But what else is there? The things that maybe I'm not thinking about, I'm in my little bubble, that we need to here in Hawaii, maybe other places around the country, around the world.
Well, I think there are several national groups that are focused on kind of legislation and advocacy around digital equity. And so just staying in touch with them is a really great idea. So there's National Digital Inclusion Alliance, which is NDIA. There's World Education. There's National Skills Coalition. So all these groups are really advocating for digital equity and digital skills. And the more, like you said, the more we do better, the more we all do better, the more we all do better, right? So I think that's one way. I think too, that idea of involving businesses, like you're trying to get them involved, is really great, because businesses have a lot of clout, and they determine, and not to say, Northstar, our philosophy is not that a business would use Northstar to weed potential employees out, but rather to say, here's a great employee. They need some skill building in digital literacy to do this job, so we can provide that through Northstar.
Yeah.
For example.
I'm loving that, right? And I think what we're trying to do is increase the awareness of the resources that we have right now, that we're getting. I mean, even again, and this is not going to happen, but if our contract doesn't go through, all of the resources, so a whole bunch of the resources, like you said, are available for free, and companies could be setting that up. So we're trying to get it so that the companies can use the assessment, they can figure out where you were at, and here's this free curriculum that they can do on their own. And I think the commitment from companies, though, has to be that we want to give you time to either take the assessment 10 to 20 minutes and or even do training during the day, during the work day. I could dream, so if a company can say, hey, listen, I'm going to give you half an hour or 20 minutes to do a module here, and go as far as you can go in this 20 minutes, and then keep learning. So our deputy director here at DBED, Chung, who took the test, and he passed, by the way, so he's all happy. Okay. But he used to own a restaurant or something. He told me just the other day, and he says, I think it's our responsibility as business owners to try and upskill the people who work with us and for us. And I thought that was a fantastic thing to say. When I'm just trying to give resources to people, which is Northstar is one of the key cornerstones of these resources.
Yeah, and I think too that some businesses think, well, my employees don't need to have digital skills. But what they're often, talking to like big food processing companies, for example, or manufacturing companies, what they're finding is that in order just for their employees to fill out the HR paperwork or to do training, the company-wide training, they need those digital skills, even if their specific job doesn't require it. So it really does behoove the organizations to provide that. And then the other thing you mentioned about, having people take their lunch break or whatever to learn these skills. Now that the world is so much more remote, be able to do remote learning. Yeah. We have people who they work with a tutor over their lunch break, like for 15 minutes every week, or half an hour, whatever the lunch break is. One guy in particular I'm thinking about is a security guard. So when he's on his break, he does the training, and the organization that he's with supports that. And so he's a father. He's got a family he has to take care of when he's at home. He's busy. I think he works a couple jobs. So that's the time he can do it, and Northstar can facilitate that.
I'm all in. I'm a big fan. I'm going to hold signs, for Northstar, and we've used it enough, and I've been messing around with it long enough that I'm sold, right? So we just gave out the link to the assessment at our broadband Hui a couple of days ago. So I'm sorry, yesterday. So it takes me a little long to get through here. And one guy said, so what are we going to get? I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I can get a spreadsheet, export all your guys' scores, and we'll say our broadband Hui has this level of digital literacy. This many people passed or whatever it is. And I think that's an interesting thing because it gives us a baseline. Like I sometimes joke around about CrossFit. We used to do that a long time ago before my body kind of broke down. But they would say people just die for points. And I want us to get to that level of motivation where we can say, hey, Hawaii's at 85, Louisiana's at 95. We can go back to Louisiana. What's up to NOLA? Shout out there. But let's do this. Let's kind of upskill a little bit. I do have one thing I want to show you. If you can, I took this off the some website. I can't remember what it is. It's from OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, I think. But this is one of the first things I saw, and it's some international study, and they use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different levels, and there's no 0. I think it's very PC. Just can't use it, or they didn't want to take the test. And there's like 5, 10, 15, like your 16 or so percent, which is, interestingly enough, it corresponds to the reading literacy that people generally quote here in America and Hawaii too, kind of nationwide. But look at that yellow thing. That's like almost 70%, all the way in a gray, red, yellow. Almost 70% of the people are poor, terrible, can't use computers. And that whole thing was not complicated stuff. It's not even talking pivot tables. We're talking about downloading an attachment, opening it up and making a change and re-uploading it. I know you've seen that kind of data before, right? And that's kind of old. Do you have any sense of that kind of update, or what's your response when you see that kind of chart?
I think it's really true that there's so many people who don't have the kind of the basic digital literacy, and people often think, oh, it's people who are over 65, and it's not. It's that group, but it's also millennials, and it's younger, and interestingly enough, many of the young people, let's say in their 20s, feel very digitally literate because they know how to use their phones.
Right.
But the phone isn't the same as a computer, and you can't do the same things. So I was talking to a prison system where they gave they happened to be a men's prison. They had young men. They all thought they'd pass the assessment, and they didn't, just because they didn't have those actual computer skills, things that you have to do on a computer rather than a phone, or that are much easier. So I think that those numbers make sense.
16 to 65. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's room for, like you said at the beginning, there's room for growth for all of us. This
is an interesting thing, and I know I'm running out of time here, but when we talk about demographics, people are always asking me right after, are you guys going to be talking about internet safety, security? And the other thing is languages, which we're also wanting to come back and talk to you about too. So I'm trying to get funding, and Representative Case, one of our congressional representatives, has approved at least a little bit for us for the next 12 months. I don't know how that appropriations committee thing works. Some funding there, and for specifically that I've called out in a line item for language things. And so I want to come back and talk to you again, because we talked about that, right? Like months ago. That we have to make some changes. And is any other state talking to you about changing some of the languages?
Yeah, so what you're referring to is that right now Northstar is only in English, and many organizations across the country and many cities and many states are saying, well, we have large populations of people who English is not their primary language, but they still need the digital literacy skills, faster than they may learn English. And we at Northstar completely agree with that, and we would love to do that. So we are seeing just a ton of interest across the country, in terms of especially Spanish, I guess, but multiple. I've heard at least 10 different languages that people are wanting. So yes,
that's a good thing. Yeah, we're on it. So we're going to come back and talk to you about that. So I actually got a question from one of our staff. From the WDC had put a question on our YouTube thing, and they wanted to know about other states, which is right on, who may be doing other statewide kind of digital literacy assessments too. Like, we talked about this. We're trying to get a phone survey out there. You hear any other people doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So actually right now, with the money coming from the federal government, a lot of state librarians, just like in Hawaii, are purchasing Northstar for all of the libraries in their state. And so we are talking, Washington State is on the verge of signing the contract, South Carolina, Delaware did just sign the contract, talking to Oregon and California and North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of states are kind of at the same point that you all are in Hawaii, in terms of, maybe a little behind you in terms of.
You don't have to say that.
But it's true.
Okay.
In terms of kind of implementing statewide. So we are seeing this as a trend. And Delaware is thinking about integrating the libraries with their adult education, their adult basic education system, so that the libraries would be the way people get in, take the assessments, learn about digital literacy and what's available. And then the adult basic education programs would have the actual classes, similar to what you're doing with workforce in the libraries.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really exciting. And I think that, again, the more this can be done at a state level, so I'm talking to all you governors out there,
yeah.
the better, and legislators, the better it's going to be, because you're going to have the resources. You're going to have not only the resources to provide it. Northstar is not really that expensive, yes. but to promote it, and that's what is I've seen to be a really great best practice, is the promotion and the adoption of using, and it wouldn't have to be just Northstar, but any digital literacy skills. Yeah.
But I think Northstar is the best. So, but going back to this point about who you're talking to here right now. Hey, governors, what's up? So maybe we here in Hawaii want to throw down this gauntlet. Let's do this, America. And the good thing is, I feel like when we talk about being competitive, it's not competing necessarily against. But we could be competing with. When you're on a team, you push each other, and I don't mind doing that. Let's do this. Like any other states wants to step up. Theresa, go tell them. Hawaii's going to be getting their data pretty soon. We're going to have that. We're getting the results from our phone survey in a couple months. We'll have all of these Northstar assessments in different companies. Hopefully, as soon as we get our contract done with you guys. But let's do this, America. Tell them. We want to go. Can you put the word out for us?
I will issue the challenge, and I am talking to statewide systems every week. So
okay. Tell them.
I'll issue the challenge.
Here's Kaala saying that you are local, and I gave you modified local, and now here's Kaala offering the challenge for the state. I'm not sure if I have that kind of street cred there, but nonetheless, it's already been done. This is live. So let's do this. Put the challenge out for our state. Right. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Well, you always talk about how in Hawaii, the canoeing culture is that you have a team. Mm-hmm. And I think that, our team can be all the states. And we can all be,
that's nice.
working together to make each other stronger. Learning from each other. Right.
That's nice. I like that. My son actually paddled here in Kailua a couple years ago. And they had different, there's like an A team and a B team and a C team, and the kids in his canoe club, they wanted to be in the A team, right? So they had to compete a little bit, right? All on the same team, and I'm not gonna lie, we want to put Hawaii out there because we need to. There's no going back, for us. We were doing really, really well before this pandemic, cranked into us. The tourism industry was doing fantastic. Everybody's just, abundant. Uluvehi. Mm-hmm. We had everything was rich and growing, green, beautiful. And all of a sudden people can't fly. What? You can't sit next to people on a plane? What? We're in trouble. So we're pretty, and I'm not trying to be desperate here, but kind of. And, I think the what you guys are offering to us here is a fantastic path. As part of our resource, and whatever, we do want to compete with the other states, compete with them, and make that happen. But I thank you so much for being a part of this. I told you before, one of the meetings that we're in back in the day, we talked about the different seats in the canoe, and we're in that same canoe right here. You are definitely pulling and helping us to pull. Thank you for your patience with us as we try and get our system together. I have one last question for you. Speaking of the millennials. Well, maybe more than one, but who knows? I have no deadline, a time limit. But, we talk about millennials and we talk about how good they are on the phone. We've heard that before too. I did some focus groups a couple of months ago, and some teachers at Hilo, Hawaii Community College, were saying that they have students coming in to their support center who couldn't use a mouse. They're super good on their phone, but they just could not use a mouse. Mm-hmm. And they were astounded by that. But my question, though, is, I don't know, I should have checked, but are you guys doing like any assessments or training for like tablets or phone stuff? Is that on your agenda? I mean, on your future rollout?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. So right now, Northstar is only 100% effective on a computer or laptop or a Chromebook. And but many people, all they have are tablets or cell phones. And I think we talked about it earlier, but like the drag and drop questions are you just can't do them on those devices. So Northstar that's near the top of our list with the translations to make Northstar accessible on mobile devices. And we are actually, we have written a grant and we should hear about it pretty soon toward that end. And right now, many organizations just know that certain questions people are not going to get right if they don't have those types of devices. So then they kind of work around it. But yeah, definitely, I mean, that's often all people have.
Yeah, I noticed that too when I was trying to get on it on my phone and it wouldn't do this or that, or I'm using some weird browser. That was like the first thing that I did. I took the assessment the very first time. I took it on Brave, which is some Chromium thing, mm-hmm. And it like, where is it? I had to go actually to Chrome to take the assessment. So I thought that was part of your assessment. Can Ka'ala adjust his browser to solve this problem? But what about curriculum for using a tablet?
Yeah, so we do get asked that quite a bit to use how to use phones, how to use tablets, how to use Zoom, mm-hmm. And at the moment we don't have that, but it's something. So at Northstar, we really value the input of the people who are using Northstar, and believe it or not, we keep a spreadsheet of every suggestion we get, and then the more often we get it, it moves higher up the list. And so I tell people that use Northstar to please write into we have a help desk, write into our help desk with your changes that Northstar has seen over the years has come about because of those suggestions. So that is on the list. Definitely. And
good. Yeah. I'm glad you offer a suggestion. I'll write that in. I think one of the reasons why I'm interested in that is because I think in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, what is it? I think mouse skills, keyboarding skills, as soon as Alexa or Siri starts getting a little bit better, it's going to be different. And, I'm just not sure. When you talk about like future-proofing, getting those kind of digital resiliency skills, the ability to learn what you need to learn, those kind of things is the future. Whatever that AI thing. I know we can write whole blog posts with AI, that new AI thing that came out. I bought some software. So I don't know.
Well, that's true. And I mean, the digital landscape is constantly changing. And so one thing that we at Northstar are committed to doing is every few years, we take a look at all the standards that we have and say, are they still the standards that we should have? And are we missing something? And, what do we add? And then change the assessments accordingly. So and that's why actually we went to the subscription model in the first place was because if you just let it be, it would soon be obsolete. So
dated. Yeah. And I saw you guys just added Google Docs, right? Like, wasn't it a couple of weeks ago or something?
January.
January. She's a couple months ago. What did you just add a couple of weeks ago? I thought I saw something too. I got to double check that.
We did add two new. Well, you're right. We added the Google Docs curriculum a few weeks ago.
Oh, I see. Right. Look. I'm on that. I'm paying attention. Yeah. I'll tell you what you guys added. That's funny. I know you had the assessment up there a while back too. Yes. And I think what you said too is super true. If you can use Word, you can use Google Docs, and vice versa. I think I'm trying to train my mind to say word processing rather than giving a shout out to Microsoft here, or Google. Right. I would just say spreadsheets instead of Excel. Saran wrap, Xeroxing, all these kind of things. They're just occupying my mind right now. But that kind of stuff is legit, and I'm super interested in where this goes and where we're going forward. And speaking of groups that you had from all over the country, right? I know you were on a call earlier with Miami, and now you're on a call with us here in Hawaii. But we had a group, a meeting, I can't remember which month it is. It all kind of blurred together, but maybe it was in April, with people from all around the country that you guys are trying to put together and form get some team like momentum to raise this whole idea of digital literacy as well.
Yeah, I think that, there's so many like you, and there's so many other, there's a few other people doing some really great things in their states. And we want to help facilitate people learning from each other, because there's no point in, just reinventing the wheel in all of the 50 states or, cities or wherever it is. And so I think that our vision is that we learn from each other, we promote the ideas, and we help, again, lift each other up. And Hawaii did make it to that list, so
that's true.
That's true. About that.
That's true. There was 50 people, every state. No, there wasn't 50 people.
That was only like 12 or 15 on the
Thank
call.
you very much. Yeah. So we're trying. We're going to try and get up there. But I really appreciate your support and your time. And I shout out to all of your viewers on your first live stream. As a matter of fact, speaking of us being on digitally literate on your Facebook group, there's so many different things going on in this world. But let me go ahead and end with Kawikea Oli again. I put him up on the screen or on this, I don't know what this is, my monitor, but this was the dream, his vision. And we talk about vision, we're talking about an alternative picture of the future. So he's like, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old when he starts. And they've already had the printing press in the nation of Hawaii at the time, and he's looking around, and all the other ali'i, Queen Ka'ahumanu is also looking around and motivating their people to learn to read. And I think what we were trying to connect to here is to get our people here in the state of Hawaii motivated to learn the skills that they need to learn to live, to work, to play, to connect with everybody around us here. This is it. And so we're talking about digital literacy. It is the big deal. And when I put this number back up on the screen here, 91%, though Theresa is pushing for 100, and I am too. But don't forget this number, 91%. This was what it was back in 1832, 1833, almost 200 years ago. If we can get to this number here of people here in Hawaii who are digitally literate, then I think there's going to be some opportunities for us in our state and for our people. And that's going to be to live the dream, which is to stay in Hawaii without having to work 50 jobs. So thank you very much for joining us. If you are here watching this, you're watching it live. Thank you for staying on. If you're watching in the replay and any of the social media things, understand that we do track these things for comments, questions anytime after that. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, please, because it does help us to get this. I can't explain it. The algorithm thing gets the word out to more people. I'm not digitally literate enough to explain algorithms, or maybe math, numeracy. Yeah. Is that right? Is it numeracy? Yeah. I can't explain the algorithm. So I can't explain the algorithm on this, but whatever. It's going to get more people to see this and get the message out to us. So thank you very much for you guys. Hey, a little shout out to Amber, who made this lei for me too. I didn't show you this. Look at this. Yeah. Our kids threw us an anniversary party a couple of nights ago. My wife and I, our wedding anniversary, it was beautiful. They have balloons, and Amber, our soon-to-be daughter-in-law, made this nice lei for me. And so I'm wearing it around. 2 days later, I still have it. And so shout out to them for demonstrating their aloha and love for us as well. So again, ahui ho, thank you very much for being a part of our live stream here again. One more thing, little announcements. I take Kawikea Oli out and this out. Next week, Wednesday, we do have this guy on. This is Jason Chang. He is the president of Queens Hospital. We're going to be talking about kind of like these kind of things, the future of work here in Hawaii and in healthcare and also around the country, and what he thinks that we need to do to prepare for this. So thank you all very much for being a part of this. Aloha, hui ho, malama pono.